It's July, the heart of policy development season here at Kentucky Farm Bureau. This month, here with us, Eddie Melton, to discuss some state policy development issues on this month's edition of Farm to Frankfort. Eddie, there's a lot going on here at the state level and state policy development. Last month we talked about a few national issues. This month we'll talk about a couple state issues, and one that's getting a lot of attention in Frankfort and throughout the countryside and all our counties and cities is talk about land use and annexation. And our organization has long prided ourselves on the preservation of prime farmland and protecting prime farmland. One of the ways to do that is a law that's already on the books in an ag district. You've got a lot of familiar with agriculture districts. What's your experience with an ag district and the process of creating those and how they can preserve prime farmland?
Well, Kyle, I do have a lot of experience with ag districts. Back in the mid-90s, there was some industry came in around the town that I live in, and there was talk of annexation, and that annexation was going to take my farm in to the city limits of the town where I live. And I didn't see anything good coming from taking my farm where we had livestock and grain and all those things into the city limits, because there is actually 6 acres of my farm that's in the city limits now, but they wanted to expand that out that I'd heard the rumor of. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I did not want my farm in the city limits, because whatever the rules are right now, the rules can change down the road. And once you're in the city limits, you've been annexed in, you get to apply by those rules no matter what. So talking, and actually Farm Bureau was involved in it, talking to some of our lobbyists in Frankfort. There was a rule on the books. It's called an agricultural district, and you actually go through your local conservation district and you apply for an ag district. You have to have 250 contiguous acres. You don't have to own all of it. You can take in any of your neighbors whatsoever, and you go to your soil conservation district there in your county and you apply for an ag district. That application will go into the state, and then the state conservation board will vote on that. Mine was a little bit more cumbersome than that. So first off, though, you have to make that application before there's any advertisement of an annexation. But we went through the process, and we still have our ag district in place right now. And I can't see for any reason why anybody that has a farm and can come up with the 250 acres contiguous, whether you or your neighbors, would not want to put your farm in an ag district, especially if you live within 5 miles of an incorporated city. Yeah. It just gives you protection. But some people think, well, if I get in the ag district, I can't get out of it. Well, that's not particularly so. You can take a portion of it out, and you can take that portion of your farm out.
And it's purely voluntary.
It's purely voluntary. Yeah. And I don't know that if there's been an application that's sent in to the State Conservation Board for one that's followed all the rules, that they've actually not approved to get in. So I would advise our membership that if they do live close to that and they want to preserve their farm and not be annexed, that they just go to their conservation district and talk to them in their county and see if they can make an application and come up with what the rules are to do that.
Yeah, and in the ag district, it's not like the CRP program, which is a national program where you're locked in for 20 or 25 years. Like you mentioned, you can put it in there, and if you change your mind, if you do want to look at development or changing from ag to residential, commercial, you can do that at any time.
That's right. It just takes the 250 acres to get in, and mine has been in since about 1994. So it re-ups every 10 years, and I think they automatically do that. So there's really no reason. I've never found a reason why I would have been sorry to do it. So yeah. I would advise people to look into that, make sure it fits what you do, and then I would apply for it.
Yeah. Keeps that in ag land, keeps you farming, keeps the ag horticulture value, and you're able to do what you want to do on your farm.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And then there's livestock. You know, some towns come up with livestock issues, and if you have a farm that's in the city limits, especially with livestock, with so many animal units per acre or whatever, that can cause you some issues. And so we just decided to do it, and so we're in it, and I've never regretted it a minute.
Yeah, worked well. I think it's been on the books since the 1980s. So I think a lot of folks, I think it was pretty popular in the late 80s, early 90s, and maybe some folks have forgotten about that program.
I think so, and it's like I said, it's I have to thank Farm Bureau. One thing that interested me back then is, they helped me preserve my farm and keep it out of the city limits.
Right. We're glad that worked out. Hopefully
did.
there's a lot of members that can do the same.
That's right.
And protect that prime farmland, keep that zoned as agriculture, and keep doing what they love to do, and feeding the world.
That's right.
Another issue we're hearing a lot about, something they're talking about in Frankfort, is a multimodal task force, and that basically is looking at infrastructure, not just roads and bridges, but also aviation, rail, and I think something very important to agriculture, river ports. Kentucky has the most inland waterways of any state in the continental United States, so I think we are very blessed with that resource. And we have 11 river ports in Kentucky. Many of them are situated in the western part of the state, which is strong ag country.
That's right.
Also strong coal country. But really for us, I think we send a lot of corn, beans, wheat from our river ports south, and then we also send a lot of kind of inputs, chemicals and things that come in from other countries. Chemicals and fertilizers come north as our ag inputs. How important are those river ports to, one, getting our inputs to us, and two, getting our crops south to go to a global market?
Well, the water is one of the cheapest transportation ways that you can get our products out of the state. So these river ports that you're talking about are vitally important to us out in the western part of the state, and here in Louisville too, because
Absolutely.
Jeffersonville has a river port here,
Yeah.
and northern Kentucky has one, I think. So those river ports are so important, and again, it's the cheapest way to get our products out of Kentucky, and with the basis on the river, farmers can get more for their product when they put it on the river. Actually, there's a new, hopefully a new grain dealer that's going to be coming into Henderson, Kentucky. Greenfield has announced that they are coming soon. We're really excited to have a new player in the market there, and from what our understanding is, it'll be a pretty big facility, and competition's never bad when you're selling grain and getting our products out of Kentucky and getting them down to the port to where they can be shipped worldwide. And that makes us better marketers and the things that we can do. So it's exciting to have that. But rail is also important too. There's a lot of facilities that don't have water in places, so those rail lines are important to them too. So we're really excited, and hopefully there'll be some funding that we can be used to develop our river ports and be able to expand those even farther.
Yeah, and looking at our general fund has been generous. In the last few budget cycles, we get $500,000 per year out of the general fund. That is a big help. But when we look at some of our surrounding states that are in the millions, tens of millions, Illinois, I believe, in the hundreds of millions for their river port, with state funding is obviously very strong. I think we also, in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, a federal bill that passed a few years ago, has billions of dollars for river ports. But it takes some matching dollars to leverage that. I think now is probably as good a time as any for some increased state funding to help leverage some of those federal dollars and what that could do.
I think so, and I think we'll probably be advocating that. I know as you go to Frankfort, and as Erica goes to Washington D.C. for us, that we will work on those issues and those that are important to agriculture, and that we can get those river ports developed as much as we can, and that way we can market our products better.
Yeah, absolutely. Last issue we'll talk about here at the state issues, I think, is Department of Agriculture. We work with the department hand in hand pretty much every day. I think the last couple of years, probably one of the number one issues we've heard about on a state level is the state veterinarian's office. We've had some disease outbreaks from high-path avian influenza. Obviously, the natural disasters caused a lot of loss of cattle. Lost some poultry houses, lost some swine houses, hog houses. And as part of that, we really call and rely on that state veterinarian's office, and just how important is that office, and some things we need to do that we as Farm Bureau can really help our partners with Department of Ag and their state veterinarian's office.
The state vet's office is so important to animal agriculture in Kentucky, but it's also important to us as grain farmers, because those animals, those processors and all, they buy our products for grain farmers. So it's all works together in what we do. But the state veterinarian, in fact, we just hired a new state veterinarian. I got to serve on the search committee for that. Dr. Steve Velasco from Texas is coming in. I think he's probably just now starting or soon will start. So we're excited to get him. Dr. Katie Flynn did an amazing job while she was there. She had her dream job come available that she had wanted to in the equine industry. So she did a great job, but she's helped transition over, and we're looking forward to Dr. Velasco coming in and getting his team up. We've had some issues with keep staffing over there. I know some legislation that was passed this year was to increase some of the salaries for the state vet's office and then the Department of Agriculture. So we're glad to get that in effect, and our organization is going to be here to stand ready to help the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and make the office of the state vet's office as successful as it can be, because it is so important to Kentucky, and as we move forward, and the animal industry is so important to us.
Yeah, they're kind of that is our resource to a lot of what's going on federally with different federal regulations that come down into Kentucky. I think that state vet's office is kind of the person we look to provide a lot of answers and information out to our members. So it's such an important office.
We hope we never have those outbreaks,
right.
But when we do, we have to have somebody that's steady and in place and that can work us through that and get through it and do the things that regulations say we need to do to safeguard all the other industries in the state.
Yeah, we've got a lot of good policy, but certainly as we get into policy development, any ideas our members have, I think it's important for them to share that.
Absolutely. We're always looking for ideas, and we're right in the thick of policy development season. Our district meetings are coming up here, so we're excited to get those out and hear the topics that are important to our membership all across the state.
Yeah, we have had some wins with the legislation last session. I think a couple years ago we were able to pass some state vet's office to recruit outside the state of Kentucky.
Right.
And we've always protected those in-state tuition vet slots at Auburn and Tuskegee.
Absolutely.
This organization's done a lot. We stand ready, like you said, to continue to support that office and help get veterinarians back into the Commonwealth and to these rural areas and these large animal professions.
Large animal, that's right. You know, there is a shortage of those, and we stand ready to help any way we can. There's been a task force that Commissioner Ryan Quarles has had working on this issue, and they're going to come out with some guidance of what they see moving forward. So we're appreciative of that, and we appreciate the relationship that we have with Auburn and Tuskegee to hold those slots for Kentucky students.
Absolutely. Well, kind of touched on a few issues, but as you know, as the resolutions chairman, great job that you do. I think last year we had over 980.
We did.
Policy resolutions that the resolutions committee went through, and looking forward to kicking that process off and seeing how many we get this year.
That's right. Well, our resolutions committee, you know, they do an outstanding job as they come in and spend those 3 days here in Louisville, and we go through those topics, every one of them, and discuss them, and you and your staff do a great job helping us get all that in place and get it ready for our annual meeting. So we're excited to start the process off here in the next few weeks.
Absolutely. Any final words of wisdom, Eddie?
Just appreciate the work that you do with you and your team, and in Frankfort and in Washington. It helps us implement our policy, and I know that policy book is what y'all go by every day, and that's what's important to our organization.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your leadership and all that you do, and just all of our members. It's what makes this organization so strong.
It is.
We're looking forward to an exciting July
It is.
As we move closer to December annual meeting and see what policies we get and what priorities we have. So, Eddie, thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.